I've known him so long that I think he's my brother, cousin, uncle, or father.
He's humble, extremely humble.
Even this morning on the phone and the computer, I mean, he doesn't stop.
You know, he's got this entrepreneurial spirit, I guess.
Making good decisions on a daily basis is something that he really prides himself in.
Everybody needs to work. Everybody has to have a purpose.
I just see characteristics in him that I admire.
And he just is great about making the right choices and the right decisions.
He knows what he wants. He's a visionary.
The guy just came from nothing and has been a huge success.
I was born and raised on a dairy farm, 10 miles northeast of Luck, Wisconsin.
He had to milk cows, and he always says walking 3 miles to school, uphill both ways. But I grew up, went to school in a one-room farm schoolhouse.
When he graduated from high school, his dad said, Dennis, it's time to go get a job. And so he and a buddy jumped in a car, drove down to St. Paul, went down to 3M and interviewed for jobs down there, and he was hired basically as an office boy. It was what you'd call it at the time.
I realized that I was just getting enough pay to get by. So that Monday morning I was supposed to come to work, I called him from my home farm in Wisconsin and told him I wasn't coming.
And he said, I can go home and make more money than this, just logging on the farm. And so he grew up on a farm that happened to have a nice bunch of maple trees. And so using a handsaw, he'd cut those maple trees down, haul them out to the road with a horse.
At that time, Luck had a business in town called Duncan Yo-Yo, which was the yo-yo capital of the world. Duncan Yo-Yo used maple to build these yo-yos. My gosh, I made more money than I ever thought I was going to make by cutting logs and sawing them into lumber for the yo-yo factory.
From there, he earned enough money to actually buy a chainsaw so he didn't have to cut them down by hand. Continue to make enough money where he could hire somebody to work with him and actually buy a tractor and then a truck to actually haul those logs to town. And so that's how he really got a start in business, is in the lumber industry.
So then became an issue of buying tracts of land and timber and so forth. And so I heard about this big tract of land near Rush City, Minnesota.
So we went to the bank in Wisconsin to borrow, and I think if I remember it was something like $5,000, maybe 10. And they said, "What kind of collateral have you got?" And he said, "Well, I don't really have any collateral, but I'll work and I'll pay you back, and I'm going to log these logs and sell them, and I've got an outlet for them." And the bank said, "No, we just can't do that."
So I remember walking out of the bank that day and saying to myself, someday I'm going to own this bank.
And several years later he did. It was in the early 80s that he bought that bank in Luck, Wisconsin, and still owns it today.
So I became active in the local community at Rush City. I was on the Rush City Development Association, Corporation, and so forth, and I got to know some of the people in Rush City, and I had a log and lumber business.
And there was a business in Rush City that was struggling. It was called Plastic Research, and it was a small business, and the owner was good at injection molding but really didn't understand the numbers all that well in the office part of it.
And I said, "I'll tell you what, you run the plant, the sales, and I'll run all the administration, and I'll provide the funding."
And a typical dentist story, it was terrific timing. This is back in the days when plastic injection molding was just taking off.
Plastics back in 1950s or 60s weren't such a successful product either, and he's brought that along over the years so that it has become very successful.
He was very active in the community, trying to make difference and change. He really tried to blend in with the community a lot.
I just thought it was the right thing to do, and I was a member of the school board, I was a member of the church council, president of the commercial club in Rush City, and I was heavily involved in the Rush City at that point in time.
My dad did a lot of things that we never really knew about back then. I think at one point he bought the city an ambulance, and maybe he'd made some large donations to the fire department, things like that he never really told us about, we never really knew about. It was just a good thing for the community.
You don't need to go to the end of the world to find things to do. There's plenty of things to do right here in the upper Midwest, business-wise.
He and I believe in the thing that you want to take care of your employees, and you can't take care of your employees if you're running businesses that aren't actually profitable over the long run.
Being a large employer in that small town, he could see that all of his employees, a lot of them lived in that same town, and so trying to do the best for the town.
He looks after his employees. He's got long-term employees. He looks after their welfare. He's concerned about them. He worries about them. At the same time, he expects them to perform.
Plastic to him is all about family. He still has people that he employed there that are still working today that he employed over 40 years ago. And so he really takes pride in the fact that those people are still there, and he takes pride in the fact that he wants to take care of those people and make sure that that legacy continues.
He always says, you treat your employees fairly and you pay them fairly. You really treat people well and respectfully, and they'll stay with you for a long, long time.
From a selfish standpoint, the better you treat your people, the better they're going to perform for you. If I want to take a selfish viewpoint, but they were my friends too. Our kids would go to the same school.
He brings his employees in as part of his family. He has good people that want to stay with him because he treats them well.
He put family first, he didn't put business first. And that's something that even though he had multiple business dealings going on at one time, whether it was in the real estate business or Frandsen Corporation or whatever else he had going on, family came first.
I didn't realize my dad was, I knew my dad had businesses and went to work every day, but as a kid, you didn't think, oh, he's never home, he's all working all the time, because every basketball game, every volleyball game, every track meet, he was on the sidelines. So as a kid, he was just dad. We didn't realize he was this big businessman.
He loved being part of the community, sitting in the bleachers yelling at us, throw the ball, shoot.
So he worked a lot, but he was, like I say, we always had supper together, and they were at all of our sporting events or any activities we did in school. They were always there.
I had a policy of being home every night at 6 o'clock. They didn't realize it, but I called it a family meeting at 6 o'clock.
My dad is where he's at, a lot to do with my mother.
I honestly believe behind every great man is a great woman. And my mom and my dad will tell you this today, that he couldn't have done it if she didn't raise us 4 kids.
And so I have to say that it's amazing how my wife handled all that, because I would tend to escape to the office at night.
It's all about family for him. If he had to give it up all tomorrow for his family, he would do it. I know he would.
It was never one business at a time. It seemed like he always had a lot of balls in the air, and he enjoyed that part. He was involved in the logging business, which he stayed involved in for years and years and years, and then it was plastic injection molding, and then it was real estate, and then in the early 80s it went into the banking business.
Part of the challenge, in working for Dennis was that we weren't very stagnant. We were always looking for new opportunities, and continues today. We're still looking for more opportunities. That's part of the challenge that I look forward to.
He's ambitious in the sense that that he has done this with several different types of businesses, and he's been successful in doing that.
Like I say, part of it is he's not trying to get rich quick. It's just, every day do something positive, every day make something happen.
He loves as a business to see as a company grow, but growth takes secondary over putting money to the bottom line and making money. And so the business needs to be profitable first, and he's not going to grow for the sake of not being profitable. That's one of the core values that he looks at.
We both are fairly conservative. We don't go out and borrow a lot of money to do that. We don't take the type of risk that could jeopardize our employees, their jobs.
Although he'll take on debt, he's debt adverse if you've got the money to pay it off. Why carry that debt?
He doesn't have a lot of money invested in like the stock market, for example, because he doesn't have control of that. Where majority of what he has, he invests back into his own companies where he has control of it, he can do something with it.
He doesn't get involved unless he really feels the need to. So he lets people run their department, run the business as they see fit, and he'll get involved by exception where there's issues within the organization. He's not going to buy a business unless the key management group within that organization wants to stay within the business. He's not interested in bottom feeding, buying a company that's struggling just for their assets. He's interested in buying ongoing businesses that are doing well, that are making money, that have a motivated management team that's interested in staying and participating.
They give it the assets they need or the cash flow that they need, and develop the people that are there that really know the business to become even better. And to be able to grow that business, you need the strength of a larger business often.
We've made around 50 acquisitions, primarily in the bank side, but some in the manufacturing side. And you know, there's two things I think a seller's interested in. Obviously, how much we're going to pay him for it. And also, who takes, because he has the same feelings about his business as I do mine, and how is his employees going to be treated, and how, you know, are they going to be bought and then sold and resold and all that sort of thing.
I think the thing that's different about Dennis than a lot of people is that Dennis got a lot of common sense. You know, he can look at a situation and pretty much decide whether it's a good fit or not.
He tends to make good decisions up front and make quick decisions if things are going in the wrong direction.
You know, he's very strategic, and he really thinks about what he wants to do first, and then he just tells people, okay, this is how we're going to do it. 10 times out of 10, he's usually right.
He's a terrific numbers guy, and he likes to say, you know, I look at the numbers and I manage by the numbers. And so one of the things he always says when he looks at certain businesses, he right away can tell whether the ownership or the people that are running it understand their costs or not.
Well, as Dennis has a way of making things interesting himself, it's all made the experience, you know, very enjoyable for me.
In business, there's two kinds of businessmen. One kind of businessman that tries to cut all the corners and make as much profit as you can and not be concerned about customers, not be concerned about employees, etc. He's 180 degrees the opposite. And in the long run, that's how you're successful in business, is to be not only just honest, but really look out for not only your customers, your employees, and this guy is.
Well, I think, like he says, first one that gets mad loses. He doesn't get mad. So he doesn't lose that often, to be honest.
He's always has a unique ability to always be thinking about business and problems within the organization. And he doesn't call them problems, he calls them opportunities.
I can remember we were on a bus together, and I talked to him about that I wanted to invest in some other things. Would he be interested in purchasing the banks and putting them together? And basically it was just about a 10-minute conversation, and we agreed to it. I mean, you can't do that with a lot of people.
I would say he will deal with you straightforward, honestly. There will not be any games played. And when it's over with, if he says he's going to take care of your employees, he'll take care of them. Whatever he says, he's going to back up. And that's part of the reason why he's been so successful.
You know, I mean, he couldn't imagine being retired and sitting around with nothing to do, watching TV. that's not, absolutely not his thing.
Frandsen Corporation, the long-term plan is that he's going to stay involved until he's incapable of doing so. So he announced several years ago that he has no intentions of retiring because he never went to work.
He wants to make sure they are successful and that people that have taken over the responsibility more to run those companies do well, and he's there to be, I'd call a mentor to those people.
I think he'll just continue doing what he's doing, looking for opportunities. You know, he's an entrepreneur. He's going to always be looking for the next deal, the next great opportunity, business.
I see him growing, expanding, buying more banks, buying more companies, growing, expanding, growing, expanding.
I think we've got a good base, and that we'll continue with acquisitions, and we've got a good team in place, good technology crew, got good management at the corporate office as well as Dennis himself. So I think we're in a good position to grow quite a bit.
So to him, it's not about what you're selling or what you're doing. It's the whole process of getting there. You know, he just loves seeing a business grow, and he can do that. He does a great job of making a business grow.
We have a banking organization, and we have a manufacturing group, and they're totally separate. The plan is to keep, not to ever sell them when I'm gone. We do not plan on selling the businesses. They need to continue for the benefit primarily of the employees, the loyal employees that we've got.
When he quits, he will be dead for 3 years. The day he quits, well, they'll have put him away for a long time.
He doesn't call it work. He calls it, it's his passion, what he loves to do. And so it's not, oh, I got to go to work today. It's, I get to go to work today.
So it's not something that he says, boy, I am tired of doing this, I need to retire. It's what keeps him going every day. It's what motivates him.
It's kind of my passion. That's really all I know how to do. You know, some people are good at a lot of other things. I'm not good at hardly anything else other than running a business.
He thinks before he speaks, you know, a lot of times. And I think that's what makes a good entrepreneur.
Looking for opportunities and not afraid to take some risks in finding them. But then has a good sense of understanding what's a good risk and what's not a good risk, you know, and moving ahead with it.
He's out there to better, you know, make things better the community, better the business.
That I think it's the friendships and the people around him that he's accumulated, that he would say that this is the, you know, kind of the measurement that I want to be measured by. And
He's incredibly smart. He's got great instincts. He knows how to negotiate a deal. He knows how to manage it, and he manages all kinds of different businesses.
I'm the luckiest girl in the whole world to have a dad like him. I mean, he's really, it's amazing. He really is an amazing